Really Charlie Podcast, making memories last. Your time, my time, we all shine on the Really Charlie Podcast. It's the Really Charlie Podcast, making memories last. Your time, my time, we all shine on the Really Charlie Podcast.
It's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bumping through your broadcast. Grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bumping through your broadcast. Grab a chair, fill your glass.
When you think about substance abuse, you never think that it will happen to your family. And when it hit our family the way it did with my sister, I promised myself that I would get the word out that the opioid addiction does not discriminate. It happens to the least of us, to the most of us. My sister was a doctor. She had her PhD in education. She was a minister, just the person who you would least suspect to be addicted to opiates. People need to understand that the opioid addiction is a physiological addiction. So just like I crave water, it's the same way people who have the addiction with opiates, they crave the drug. Initially, my sister was prescribed opiates for knee and back pain. I really believe that she wasn't able to get the prescriptions by doctors anymore, so she turned to the next best thing that she could to get that fix. And that's when she started reaching out to negative influences and drug dealers. I'm a federal probation officer. I deal with this kind of stuff all the time. But when it happened in my family, it caught us all by surprise. My sister and I were extremely close. We were best friends. If you saw her, you saw me. And when it hit so close to home, I make referrals to drug treatment all the time. I never in a million years thought that I would have to do this for my sister. But I did. And it was tough, but the addiction was so powerful. She was in a lot of denial. She did a lot of deflecting. She pointed the finger at other things going on, but she never accepted responsibility. And it was very hard. She was such a strong human being. She was my rock. She was my everything. She always came to my rescue. She was more than, just a big sister. Like, she would tell anybody, don't mess with my sister. That's the kind of person she was. So when this happened, I think in my mind, I thought, well, I knew that she would be able to beat this. If anybody could beat this, Karen could beat it. And so when COVID hit and everybody was on lockdown, there were signs But I didn't recognize those signs until after the fact. I had to go through grief counseling because 6 months prior to her dying, I had already lost her. And I had already lost her. So I actually started going through grief counseling because I knew at that point there was nothing else I could do.
How do you hire the right globally sourced engineering talent for your fast-growing team?
My sister was very charismatic, and my sister was a very strong motivational speaker, a very powerful minister. And she knew that Bible inside and out. And when she started to use scripture to justify some of the things she had done, I knew this isn't Karen. This is not my sister. Because she was the type of person, she didn't tolerate foolishness. She didn't tolerate, people making dumb mistakes. Her thing was, you're doing this because you want to do it, and I'm not going to be a part of it. That's the kind of person she was. And so when her addiction got exposed, I started noticing that she's not accepting responsibility for the addiction. Karen, I think, was dealing with some depression. I think that she was just going through a lot. And so when she died, my husband and I was like, everybody's blaming everybody, but nobody's blaming Karen. And it's not something that Karen wanted. I know she didn't. I know my sister did not want to die, but the drug was just so powerful. And because she was such a strong person, weakness just was not in her vocabulary. It just wasn't. And so probably to admit that I'm weak, I'm powerless against this addiction, she just couldn't do it. She did go in substance abuse treatment once, though. I was so proud of her. She was weaned off of the pills, and things were going great. Things were really going great, but she relapsed. And so when she relapsed, when the conversation was, I've been calling my counselor, but she's not calling me back. Okay, now the probation officer hat is kicking in. Okay, yeah. And she would say it over and over, and she would be so convincing. Oh my God, she would be so convincing. I've been calling that counselor, and that counselor's not been calling me back. And so finally, I just had to tell her, okay. Okay. So she was sick. I was at work and got a phone call that the paramedics were at her house and they couldn't resuscitate her. And her husband had come home from work, working a night job. He came home from work and found her passed out, unresponsive. She was gone. Yeah. She was gone. There were pills. And what she would always do is to intensify the high, she would take her pills with wine. And that's literally how she was found. That's how she died. She died at home. Yeah. When you buy drugs from a drug dealer, you don't know what you're getting. And so essentially that's what happened. When I got a copy of her death certificate, It said on there, fentanyl, alcohol, Xanax, and hydrocodone. And the reason on her death certificate, it said substance abuse. So that's how she died. And I know she did not commit suicide because that was not Karen. But I do believe she overdosed because she didn't know what she was getting. I think we didn't talk about it like we probably should have because of pride. And that is the worst thing to deal with when you're dealing with someone with substance abuse. It's you have to push the pride to the side. You can't be embarrassed because it happens. It happens.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Really Charlie podcast. I like to share those documentaries from the Texas Pictures Documentaries. Excuse me. So I try to share those stories from the Texas picture documentaries. They give real life stories. I found them on YouTube several months ago, and I continue to listen to them on a daily basis. But what I'm trying to do is I'm going to bring these type of life stories to the Really Charlie podcast, and just where it's real. It's definitely there's people from all walks of life, just like Dr. Karen's sister had said. Doesn't matter. You can have the least or the most. Opioid addiction doesn't discriminate. It's going to go and affect many families over and over again. And as we talk about this issue every week, myself and my co-host Paula Young, we actually we're always trying to bring the attention out, so people can be aware of what's going on within their families, within themselves, because everyone has a story. There's some stories out there that I hear from many of my friends, and I tell them that, feel free, come on the podcast and tell your story. You never know who you may inspire to get some help, and trigger that push that they may need. And sometimes we can only help ourselves, and there might be some words, and a friend of mine had seen something similar to this, the 988 suicide and crisis line. What is 988? And this lifeline is formerly known as the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Offers 24/7 call. You can also text or chat access to the trained counselors who have helped people experiencing suicide, substance abuse, and mental health crisis, or any other kind of emotional distress. As you read that on the bottom of the screen, if you need your help, you need some help somewhere down the line, and it may not be you, it may be something that you're going through. Even though you may not be going through an opioid addiction, you may be the person that's on the side that's going through seeing someone go through that. So feel free to call that 988 number and talk to someone. Doesn't matter where you are in the country, it's going to go. It's going to go to the nearest center to you and get you the help that you need. And it may just be you talking to someone other than the people that are around you, because sometimes they can be the biggest crutch, enabler doing, just not helping you, just not helping you. We had Ron, a friend of ours, Ron, on, and he talked about that, how sometimes we think we're helping, but we're not. We're just enabling and being a crutch. And all that does is not help our loved one, our friend, or even someone that you're just coming across for the first time. It's not helping them by becoming that crutch. Although I'm not going to condone, I'm not going to downgrade anybody's situation. I'm not going to talk about it and smash them or anything like that. I just, if you need help, 988 is definitely where you can first start and speak to someone that's going to have your ears and have their ears for you and listen to you and understand what you're going through. Feel free. We have a call number. We actually have this number here. You can call in at 508-492-2823. Give me a call and we can talk about something here on the air. Don't have to show your pretty face, but you can talk. And I'll definitely put you on speaker on my phone and definitely talk to you for a little bit. So this this podcast is something that's dear to me. And I look forward to it every week, always trying to find something. And, Andrew's story, Paula's son, is, it's tragic. But, in his memory, we are trying to save lives every single day, just by getting the messages out. Let me give you a little reflection on Andrew's story. Andrew's story, forever 33. Andrew had a kind heart. He was passionate and deeply committed to coaching and teaching basketball. He was the proprietor and owner of Achieve Greatness, which he utilized to uplift and teach our youth about basketball and life. He took great pride in it, and despite the unusual challenges that faced a new business or new businesses, he established a clientele. Even during COVID-19 pandemic. Determined to make a difference, he performed the task with all his heart. He had a great heart. At a young age, Andrew adopted his favorite football team, his beloved New York Jets, and remained a fan even when they weren't performing well. He was an avid collector of sports memorabilia and cards and so on. Definitely good sports, big sports fan. And Andrew enjoyed watching basketball, football, baseball, and even attending games occasionally. He also enjoyed working out and staying fit. One of the greatest moments I had with him is him sending me a picture of him as a coach. Great picture. Andrew smoked marijuana for some of his anxiety and PTSD. He did have a medical marijuana card. However, he received some marijuana from a friend, which caused his death. So I just want to give you a little flashback and a little information about why we do this podcast, because the loss of our friend, my friend, and Paula's son, Phil's son, and all his siblings, it's a tragic loss. All right. So you heard the story from Dr. Karen. Dr. Karen's story was narrated through her sister. And it was brought to you by Texas Pictures Documentaries. Feel free, check out achievegreatness88.org. We have some events that are coming up, some fundraising events, one in March, Let me see if I can bring the flyer up here. And come join me. Sit on the table, talk to me, many other people that are going to be there, and we're just going to be talking shop, and let's see if this is it. Yeah, no, that's not it. All right. So that's in March, March 9th. It should be at the Century House. Achieve Greatness fundraiser. This is March 9th, 2024, 6 p.m. to midnight. We will have dinner, buffet, music, magic, silent auction, entertainment provided by Joe Cream Santos, and a few others, DJ Fresco, also a musician will also be there. So that's our event that's coming up, and I need to share it more on the social media so you guys will be aware of it. But feel free to reach out to me personally, and I'll get all the information that you need. All right. Well, this was a short podcast. Thank you very much. Please join us next Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and we will definitely probably have a guest here. Many things. I'm looking to talk to one of my friends locally and see if I can get him on here, and so he can talk shop about all the different meetings that are going on in the New Bedford area. Just in case you want to speak to some folks that are going through some crisis like you are, and definitely get them on here. All right. My favorite radio station, WNB1 Radio, is located at 262 New Bedford, Mass. Downtown New Bedford, historic district, not too far from the home of Frederick Douglass and the Polly Johnson House, which is the home of the New Bedford Historic Society. Stay tuned. Charlie Perry will be more involved with the Historic Society. We're going to do some things, amazing things. So there's so many different things that I'm looking to get involved in. And when it comes to the history of this fine city, I definitely want to be there. I definitely want to be there and share it. I want to listen and learn and pass it on to my friends and family to be proud of what we have here in this city now and in the past. All right. And in the future, things are growing. Things are growing all over the waterfront. Things are going on. Different activities downtown throughout the city. So stay tuned. All right, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much. Like I said, this is the Really Charlie podcast on WNB1 Radio. And also feel free to join us, WNB1.com. We have different events going on. We have the first Friday comedy show that's coming up. That's going to be coming up, it was February 9th, at the Whaling City Inns on 500 Hathaway Road in New Bedford. Feel free to get in touch with one of us. But the best thing is to go right on that website, WNB1.com, and check out all the activities. You can buy tickets. Later on in March, we have Frank Santos Jr., the hypnotist. We will have him at the same venue where he will be going. He will be coming to our area. Once again, he pops in and out of the area, but the tickets in advance are $25, $30 at the door. Please come join us. Hosted by Paul Santos of the Paul Santos Live Show. He will definitely be our host for the evening of the Frank Santos Jr. Hypnotist show. No relation. There's no relation as far as we know. So, but Paul will be the host, and we will have Frank Santos. A great show. I highly recommend you to get your friends, your family, and join us. It's a good night. Get to laugh at a few people under hypnosis. It's going to be something special. All right. All right, I'm going to end this podcast with my favorite song. Be blessed and God bless. I appreciate every single one of you that are joining me here on Facebook, on through StreamYard, on YouTube. Also, we will be on Spotify momentarily. I will definitely download it on Spotify. Just look for the Really Charlie podcast on Spotify, and you can see audio or video of this show and many, many others. All right. Let's see. All right. My favorite song by Peter Lionel Walker. Let's see. Peter's doing great things, man. Still got to check out his show, man. He was on stage, acting for the first time, man. So got to see that. Got to share it with you all. If I can ever get it, I have to talk to my good friend Patricia Gomes and see if she has it. All right, everyone. Take care. Have a good night.
It's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass.